everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GOAT Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, Jim Neander. As always, go ahead and find us on Twitter. That's me. I'm at Jim Neander, spelled Neander with an N like Neanderthal. Yes, has been my nickname since I was very young. You can tell my beautiful pronounced browage really helps with the eyebrow raising. But yeah, find me at Jim Neander. Also, you can just tweet the show at GOATFF Podcast. Hit us up with your start tick questions, any other questions you have about your team. I'm glad to try to help. Also, jumping on a lot of different forums and websites and just jumping in there, throwing my 2 cents into all the starts and sits I can get. Trying to get the name out there just a little bit. People see it around a little bit, Hey, that's what we do. So, hey, listen, we got a fun show today. It's Tuesday morning. Haven't got too much information about the injuries from the weekend, unfortunately, at this point, but we'll update you the best we can. At the end of the show, we're going to be going over all of our top waiver wire pickups. Of course, Tuesday night, most of your waiver wire claims need to be ready to rock for early Wednesday morning. Get those waivers in. So we're going to talk about our top waiver wire pickups, both for just the immediate future, being this next week or two, and for the rest of the season going forward. Yeah, you gotta look at it both ways, right? Sorry, I'm pretty easily distracted here. I was looking at the bright screen and I got distracted. I'm sorry. So, all right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pick back up where we left off here. We did the first half of the games as far as our reaction, to last week's games, week 7, and we're gonna pick up where we left off, do the last 7 games here, go through all the performances, give you our feedback, what I was thinking about those games, and then we're going to move forward and talk about the waiver wire pickups before we get into the rest of the week, all right? So, where do we pick off here? We've got a great game to start with. We're going to jump back in with the Packers traveling to Houston to play the Texans. So, Green Bay and Houston, and Green Bay took care of business on the road here, 35-20. And offense looked great, got Davante Adams back, and obviously that made a huge difference, For Aaron Rodgers, they struggled mightily against, a great defense with Tampa last week. But A-Rod, 283 and 4 touchdowns, a lot of that damage early, but looked fantastic, was really making some great plays. And without Aaron Jones, they had to do without Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams looked just fine in replacement. You would have liked to see maybe A.J. Dillon get some more work. You're going to hear me say it all the time with these rookies. When you have a guy like Jamal Williams, you kind of already know what you have. If he was going to be a number 1 running back, he probably would have been already, quite honestly. But, A.J. Dillon, you don't really know what's there yet. So I don't see the hurt in getting him more work. But Jamal Williams, 19 carries, 77 yards and a touchdown. Also added 4 catches on 5 targets for 37 yards. So a real nice game for Jamal Williams. Got that touchdown and really helped him out. A.J. Dillon, only 5 carries for 11 yards. Wasn't involved at all in the game. So if Aaron Jones is out again, Jamal Williams, obviously the way to go. And then the way things have been going in 2020, A.J. Dillon will get the most of the work. So, but for now, that's how it looks. And yeah, welcome back, Davante Adams. 16 targets. We missed you, buddy. 13 catches, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. The number 2 wide receiver on the week, behind only that monster game that Tyler Lockett put up. So yeah, Davante Adams looked great, and I'm sure, obviously, Aaron Rodgers was glad to have him back. Outside of that, nobody really got a lot of targets. Obviously, 16 for Adams, 4 for MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he caught 0 of them for 0 yards and gave you the big goose egg. If you went with MVS as a wide receiver 3 with that upside, you really got hurt here, and it's brutal. So you're happy Davante Adams is back. You're hoping Lazard comes back eventually, but not really expecting it. And other than that, I don't think you can play anybody. And again, if you went out to the tight end and you played Robert Tonyan based on the last usage, I said that was dangerous with Adams coming back, and he only had 2 targets, caught them both for 32 yards, and then saw Jay Sternberger, the other tight end, second-year tight end, catch another touchdown. So brutal day for Tonyan as well, but end of the day, Aaron Rodgers looked fantastic, and that's what you want to see. And Jamal Williams looked good in replacement. Davante Adams looked great coming back. So great day for Green Bay, moving to 5-1. Houston, drops to 1-6. I know the schedule's been brutal, but 1-6 is brutal no matter what. Either way, they're going to get a good draft pick. They'll rebuild a little bit. Well, they don't have a lot of draft picks, unfortunately, because of Bill O'Brien. But we'll see what they can do in the offseason here. Deshaun Watson, either way, came through for you late. 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 38 yards on the ground. Not a great game, but for fantasy, you got that late touchdown. You were fine with it. David Johnson, another relatively ugly game for him. Thankfully, he did catch a touchdown pass. He ran the ball 14 times for 42 yards. Caught 4 passes though, 42 yards and a touchdown. Hey, it's hard to it's hard to argue with that. Where do you wind up on the week? Let's see what we find here. Running back 12. Tied for running back 12 in PPR format. So, hey, David Johnson was running back 1 this week, and however you get there, man. But it's ugly. It's ugly. All right, let's go to the outside here. Randall Cobb. This is a week where he led the team in targets. 10 targets, caught 8 balls for 95 yards. Not much to say about that. You're not going to play him over Fuller and Cooks. This was just a Cobb week. It just happened to be that way, and it really only out targeted Brandon Cooks by 1 target. Cooks had another 9 targets, caught 7 balls for 60 yards. So you're still happy playing Cooks, and then Fuller got in the end zone. It was a tough day for Will Fuller. He caught 3 of his 6 targets for 35 yards, but did catch that 24-yard touchdown pass. Really nice pass and catch. So that saved his day. So actually, you could have played any of those receivers. You were fine. The guy you did probably play, and hopefully not on my suggestion, but lots of people wanted to play him. Darren Fells, the big old goose egg. Not a zilch. Nothing. Not a target, not a look. Fucking nothing. Not a tight end target. Only 6 people were targeted in this game for Houston. I don't know if that's part of the problem, but they were not really spreading the ball around yet. There are 4 wide receivers and the 2 running backs. I guess, those are all your main guys, but shit. You want to see a better spread there. Houston continues to be bad. You can still play guys for fantasy, absolutely, because, we know that there's some points on the board there for Houston, but other than that, it's pretty ugly. Let's go to another team that's just rolling right now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to Las Vegas and just beat the snot out of the Raiders, 45-20. So, plenty of points here for for most of your Buccaneers. Not all of them, though. Not all of them by a long stretch, man. It's been a little bit up and down for a lot of these guys. So, Tom Brady continues to kill it, man. 369 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, another touchdown on the ground. Woo. I believe that's the quarterback 1 on the weekend in quite a lot of formats, depending on your format. Could have been Herbert, could have been Murray. I'm showing Brady number 3 here on Fantasy Pros, but I don't know. It all depends on your format. I think maybe Herbert is number 1. And then, let's see, Leonard Fournette, comes in and takes way too much of Ronald Jones's work. I thought Jones had done more than enough to kind of sew up the majority of the work on the ground. I understand they were, pretty ahead in this game, but it wasn't really, they weren't that far ahead for most of the game. It was 21-10 at the half. So, yeah, they had a decent-sized lead. It was, 24-17 after 3? There was a 1-score game, so the Fournette was way involved. He had 13 carries for Ronald Jones, 34 yards and a touchdown. Jones only had 1 catch for 2 yards, and that was on 2 targets. Leonard Fournette, on the other hand, 11 carries for 50 yards, but 7 targets, caught 6 balls for 47 yards, and that is a lot of usage through the air. It really is. And, we start to look at their finishes here in PPR, and you have Leonard Fournette at number 14, and you got to go down to number 23 for Ronald Jones, tied for 23rd. But, yeah, it's like 10 points because he didn't have anything, through the air. Pretty brutal there, pretty brutal. So, going forward, we'll talk about it in the preview show, but Ronald Jones is getting riskier and riskier, by the week. Now we have these receivers. So everybody got a little bit of love except for Mike Evans here. So you had Chris Godwin tied for the team lead in targets, 9 targets, caught all 9 of his targets for 88 yards and a touchdown. First really good game for Chris Godwin here. You had Scotty Miller, also 9 targets, caught 6 balls for 109 yards and a touchdown. Big game for Scotty Miller, but you can't play him, unfortunately. Mike Evans targeted twice, caught them both, 37 yards. Super disappointing game for Mike Evans. And I had him down for the year. Now they're apparently going to get Antonio Brown, right? I don't think that does much for, the Chris Godwin, connection or Rob Gronkowski. I think it could affect Mike Evans the most. But we'll have to see what happens when he comes in. Either way, Mike Evans is not really performing. He's touchdown dependent. And man, there were 4 touchdowns through the air in this game and not one, to Mike Evans. So that hurts. And then Rob Gronkowski continuing to kill it. Listen, I might have spoke way too soon. I was really off of him in the offseason. And then after a couple of bad performances, I was patting myself on the back. Really, really happy that I picked that one correctly. And then out of nowhere, but here we go. Old Gronk and Brady, 8 targets, 7 targets, the game, catching touchdowns, and looking a little bit better, looking a little bit faster, just looking like he's more in football shape. So at this point, I'm not ready to say I was wrong. It's a couple of games. You had some good ones, some bad ones, but it's absolutely trending up and should be in your rankings as a tight end 1 for the next couple of weeks until he proves otherwise. In Vegas, Derek Carr, another not too bad game. 284 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and a pick. He just couldn't get it really going against his defense. Really tough matchup here. Josh Jacobs got brutalized in this game. You're going to play him if you're a Josh Jacobs owner, the way the running back landscape is right now, but 10 carries for 17 yards, a few touches, a few catches, 3 for 14 on 4 targets. Overall, really, really bad game. 6 and plus points. What are you going to do? It's one of the toughest run defenses in the league. Jalen Richard got 7 carries, but also, 24 yards. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to move past it. On the outside here, getting pretty interesting with Nelson Aguilar. Tied for the team lead, 9 targets, caught 5 balls, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Continues to be the number 1 wide receiver on his team. And it's really not even close. You'd like to think Henry Ruggs should be and will be moving into that role, but they continue to just, say, hey, kid, run deep, and if the ball comes your way, try to catch it. That's basically what they're doing with Henry Ruggs right now. I don't like it. He did have one really nice little play where he caught the ball underneath and made something happen, right? He made a really positive play out of it. I think it was 25, 30 yards, something like that. And, I don't know why they're not doing that more. We'll see what happens next week. But for right now, Nelson Aguilar is a very sneaky flex wide receiver 3 play to have in your lineup and for DFS. Renfro, 6 targets, caught 4 for 42. Ruggs, as I mentioned, 2 for 35. And then Darren Waller, he's going to get his work. 9 targets, caught 6 balls, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. We talked about him a little bit yesterday in star performers. Really nice performance here for the tight end. Love to see him get into the end zone because that was, of course, the big problem last year, which is not enough touchdowns. And, you get a couple more this year, he's going to be even that much more deadly. So, all right, let's keep it rolling here. We're going to move it to the, let's see, are we on the late games already? Yeah, Tampa Bay was a late game. So, all right. Oh, man. So, Kansas City travels to Denver. First snow game of the year. Love seeing that white powder on the field, baby. Love that white powder anyway. But love seeing that white powder on the field. Makes you feel like it's football time. It's October. Mile high. We get the snow. We like it. But it did, put a damper on the Kansas City offensive weapons, unfortunately. Patrick Mahomes, 200 yards and a touchdown. Didn't need to do too much because Denver wasn't really in the game. They gave up a pick 6, a return for a touchdown. They were just kind of content to, run the ball out, run the clock out, keep it going there. So, Mahomes, one of the very few games he's going to have on the year where he didn't help you. Hopefully the rest of your team picked you up because he usually, carries, a team on his back. And hopefully the rest of your fantasy guys, brought you to a win because it wasn't Mahomes this week, but, on the ground, this was more interesting. I know, again, it wasn't a close game, and there was the weather, but, Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran the ball 8 times, 46 yards and a touchdown. So, nice, nice average, and you got the touchdown, so you're happy with that. Caught 1 ball, 17 yards. But Le'Veon Bell, while he only ran the ball 6 times, 39 yards, 6.5 yards a clip, and looked pretty decent doing it. It's going to be hard to play Bell because we don't know what the real mix is going to be in games where they are close. But at the same time, he looked good. It's going to be hard to keep him, you're going to have to roster him at this point, right? 100% needs to be rostered. If anything should happen to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Lev Bell might be a beast. But for now, I'm probably not going to recommend playing Lev Bell next week. We'll talk about it in the preview show. And let's talk about the wide receivers. A tough one there for everybody, but Tyreek Hill, even for him, wasn't that efficient. 10 targets, caught 6 balls, 55 yards, and a touchdown. So, you got what you needed out of Tyreek Hill, but that was it. No matter who else you played, that includes Travis Kelce, you didn't get the points that you needed. Kelce caught all 3 of his passes for 31 yards. I mean, when was the last time Travis Kelce had 3 targets? Nicole Hardman caught both of his balls for 57 yards, but still not a good game. You need more than that. Demarcus Robinson disappeared in this game, caught his only target for 4 yards. What you gonna do, man? It's a snow. What you gonna do? Drew Lock, 254, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He did run a touchdown in though, so for some ungodly reason you played Drew Lock. At least you got that rushing touchdown, but it was still pretty bad. I hope you didn't do that. Nobody recommended that. Melvin Gordon, 17 carries, 68 yards and a touchdown. Got a lot of his work after Lindsey came out of the game. Looks like a concussion. He's questionable for this week. We'll have to see. I don't know if there's any news on Mr. Let's see here. Philip Lindsay. No, still no news on Philip Lindsay. So we're going to wait that one out. But Gordon, 17 for 68 and a touchdown. Caught 2 passes for 12 yards. Had a nice game. Was, he's a running back too. He's a running back, 20 on the week in PPR. So, is that right? What do you get? Yeah. 10, 16. That's not right. I don't know what's going on here. Why does it say 12 points? He had more than 12 points, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at 12.8 on the ground and another few points. So 13, 14. Oh, did he maybe lost a fumble? Lost 2 fumbles. Okay, all right. I'm like, listen, what's going on here with this website? Are they messing up with me? Am I not reading it correctly? But he lost 2 fumbles. So I didn't see that. I wasn't able to watch most of that game, but it is what it is. So, and then Philip Lindsay looked great. Unfortunately, before he left the game, 9 carries, 79 yards. Just looking fantastic on the ground. And then left the game, so we'll see what happens. Either way, it's just tough to play either one because we don't know what the split is going to be if Lindsay's in there and fully healthy. So, yep. And then on the outside here, it was a tough one for anybody if you played any receivers here. Tim Patrick, who you probably would have played, had 4 targets, caught 3 balls for 44 yards. And then you had 3 targets. There was a really big spread here. 3 targets each for Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler. You had 4 targets for Jerry Jeudy, for who else? Tim Patrick. They were spreading the ball around. And then tight ends had a bunch of work here. So, unfortunately, not the one that you wanted to. Noah Fant, 7 targets, caught 3 balls for 38 yards. Really disappointing game for Noah Fant. And then Albert Okwebunam. All right. Well, he had 7 targets anyway. He caught 7 balls, 60 yards for Albert O. And nice game for him. And listen, he looks great. He was, pretty, a high talent draft pick at the tight end position, even though maybe a little bit raw as a project. But looks good here. And 7 targets. Hey, if they're gonna wear out the tight end position like this, because there was also, Nick Vannett had 3 targets. So I mean, that's like 17 tight end targets there, man. That's a lot of tight end targets. So we'll see what happens going forward. Either way, it was a really tough day for anybody on the Broncos. Hopefully, you didn't trot any of those guys out there. All right. Let's pick this back up here. We got 3 more games before the waiver wire part of the show. Ooh, this one won't take that long. It was pretty ugly here. San Francisco traveled across the country to Foxborough to face off the New England Patriots and absolutely shellacked them 33-6. Just an atrocious game in every facet for New England. Really, really ugly here. Let's talk about San Fran, though. Jimmy Garoppolo, you see 33 points. Maybe you get something out of the quarterback. No. 277 yards, but no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Pretty brutal day. All the touchdowns were run in, 3 of them by Jeff Wilson Jr., who then goes and gets hurt again. And so if you picked him up for the 1 week and you played him, boom, you got everything you needed. But if he's on your bench, now he's back to not being useful. Going to have to drop him. He didn't get the points. Number 1 running back on the week. Oh, well. You got to take your medicine sometimes. That is what it is. But yeah, Jeff Wilson, 17 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns, number 1 running back on the week. Caught 2 balls for 8 yards just to add a couple more points. And yeah, 32 points in PPR formats, man. Big game. If you were hoping it might be a Jerick McKinnon week, it was not. He had 3 carries for -1 yards. And that should be negative points. I think I played him in a league, and he had like 0.8 points. I don't know how that happens. I got to look at it, though. Got to look at it. And let's see here. Kyle Juszczyk ran one in, but no way to look at that. The other guy to look at is Jermichael Hasty. Ran the ball 9 times, 57 yards. You might have heard a little bit about him last week. Some people talk about picking him up, but the expectation was for Wilson to be the number 1 back, and now he's out again. Raheem Mostert is still out. McKinnon hasn't been the guy they're giving the ball to. We don't know if Tevin Coleman's coming back, so we're going to be talking about Jermichael Hasty here in just a little while. Foreshadowing. All right. Let's go to the outside here. Brandon Ayuk, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 115 yards. And, a couple weeks ago, he was kind of being left for dead, right? Because he was only being used because all their targets were hurt, right? Debo was out. Kittle was kind of banged up, in and out of the lineup. They didn't really have, many other places to throw the ball. And then they didn't have Garoppolo for a minute there either. Now they have everybody. And then, yes, even though Debo got knocked out of this game, it's going to be, hurt. Brandon Ayuk looked fantastic. 6 for 115 on 7 targets, man. We're going to talk about him shortly also. Debo did catch all 5 of his targets for 65 yards. Very disappointing that he's going to be out for the next few weeks. Very possible that he's a drop candidate just because there's other wide receivers out there that can score 12, 13 points in any given week. And you can't hold up a bench spot with all these buys coming up for Debo, who's only played 2 weeks this year, really. So, that sucks. And then George Kittle caught 5 of his 7 targets for 55 yards. That's a decent game. It's fine. But, Kittle owners are spoiled, and they want those monster games. Just didn't get it this week, but he didn't kill you here. Let's see where he actually wound up as a tight end. Just for some perspective, he was the tight end 13. Just outside tight end 1, his 10.5 points. Obviously you're not happy, but you see what I'm saying, right? Not that bad. Everything was bad for New England, really. Really, everything was bad. Cam was terrible. 98 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions before being benched. I think it was at the half. I feel like it was at the half, but I really can't be sure. Stidham came in and went 6 of 10 for 64 yards and an interception. They didn't score any touchdowns. They had 2 field goals on the game. Damian Harris, at least he ran the ball 10 times, 58 yards. He looked a little bit better. If they go to Stidham or they just start running the ball more in a more traditional manner, Damian Harris can definitely be someone that you want to pick up. And we're going to talk about him here. I think also. He's not here? Maybe he needs to be here. All right. We'll talk about it. All right. And then, let's see. On the outside, obviously you can expect nobody of merit did anything. The target leader was Jacoby Myers out of nowhere. 6 targets, caught 4 for 60. Other than that, the only person with 4 targets was Rex Burkhead, who caught 3 balls for 35 yards. The guys you might have played: Edelman, 1 catch for 13 yards on 3 targets. N'Keal Harry, 1 catch for 6 yards on 2 targets. James White, 1 catch for 3 yards on 1 target. Just want to vomit all over that box score. Just everywhere. Just fucking puke, unload, Exorcist style, like all over that disgusting box score. That's just so gross. I don't know what New England's going to do. We'll talk about it in the preview show, but I'm not looking forward to playing any Patriots. I have very, very few shares. I had a share of Cam Newton. I got rid of it a couple weeks ago. I'm very happy playing Justin Herbert. Thank you very much. Hey, speaking of Justin Herbert, the number 1 quarterback on the week in some formats, the Jacksonville Jaguars traveled to Los Angeles, across the country there to the West Coast, take on the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chargers took care of business, 39-29. Jacksonville played a decent game. They were in the game. LA kind of pulled ahead near the end of the 3rd quarter there, but it was a strong game. It was a strong game for most of your fantasy options that you may have played in this game. So, listen, if you played Gardner Minshew, I've been off of him as a streamer for a few weeks now. 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 yards on the ground. Where did those 2 touchdowns bring you up to here, Mr. Minshew? Quarterback 14, not the worst. Not the worst thing you could do, He was better than Stafford and Ryan, a lot better than Josh Allen. He was better than Mahomes. Can't guess those things, but, just perspective again. James Robinson, welcome back, man. Number 2 running back on the week. Really gave a big boost to a couple of my teams that needed it this week. 22 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown, and just looked really good doing it. And that's kind of the point. Also caught 4 balls, I believe. Yeah, for 18 yards and a really nice touchdown. I talked about it yesterday to Star Performers. Beautiful touchdown grab. Go check it out. If you think he was going to make the corner there, you're better than me. I thought he was going to be 3 or 4 yards short, and he turned that corner so hard and got there. All right, where do we start here? Target leaders or effectiveness? Let's start target leaders with DJ Chark. 7 targets, caught 1 ball for 26 yards, and kind of has a habit of being a little bit demonstrative when things aren't going his way and aren't going well on the field. Don't know how that's going to go over. Then you had, let's see, Laviska Shenault with 3 targets, caught them all for 44 yards, but just not enough work to really put him in your lineup right now. The playmaking ability is there. If they want to get him involved more, maybe something can happen, but tough to play any receiving options on this team right now with how bad they're playing. Even when they're down, they're going to run the ball. That's what they're going to do. They can't move the ball through the air right now. And Keelan Cole, I mean, what's going on here? 2 targets, 1 catch, 12 yards, like a fucking magician, disappearing act. Fucking smoke goes up, and there you go. The 2 receiving touchdowns, James Robinson had 1, and then Chris Conley had 1. His only catch. So it doesn't really help anybody either. It's just how it goes. Let's talk about LA, where a lot of people got helped out. At this point, you got to be playing Justin Herbert. If you don't, you better have a top 5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback if you're not playing Justin Herbert right now. I've got one league where I've got Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert, and that's going to bother me every week. This week is probably going to be Rodgers against Minnesota, but man, it's fucking tough to keep this kid on your bench. 347 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, another 66 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. I mean, monster game. Number 1 quarterback on the week. He's been killing it. His point per game average for the season is absolutely absurd. His season totals extrapolated from his 4 games he's played or 5 games he's played so far is completely ridiculous. Like getting near 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. So, got to have him in your lineup. What a great game. Welcome to the party, bitches. And, on the ground here, disappointing to give Joshua Kelly 12 carries and watch him get 29 yards with it. So that's what you're going to do with those carries. I don't know why you're not giving them to Justin Jackson. I know Jackson supposedly had knee issues, but, not enough. His knee issues weren't bad enough that he didn't have 6 targets. So let's continue on Josh Kelly. He did have 5 targets, caught them all for 24 yards. Those 7.5 points, right, in addition to those 2.9 points, are what saved it from being an absolute dog shit week for him, but still pretty bad. Justin Jackson ran the ball 5 times for 12 yards. So he was also bad with efficiency, but didn't really get as many opportunities. So it's really not fair to say that. But he did have 6 targets, caught 5 balls for 43 yards. So he was also better in the passing game. All we can do is hope that it's Justin Jackson, next week. But we don't know. It might be Josh Kelly. I hope it's Justin Jackson. But it's going to be hard to play either one of these guys again. There's so many situations like that where you're saying it's going to be hard to play either one of these guys. But if you're saying that about 6 or 7 teams, and then there's 4 teams on a bye, and everyone needs to play 2 running backs, well, some people got to play these fucking guys, right? So I don't know what you're going to do about it. Let's go to the outside here. Keenan Allen, not surprisingly, target leader by far. 13 more targets, caught 10 for 125. Another big game, baby. PPR monster. All the targets, you got to love it. You want touchdowns too, but believe me, all the Keenan Allen owners are thrilled with how many question marks there were about him going into the season. Who else got targets here on the outside? Jalen Guyton had 3 targets, caught 2 for 84 yards, including 70-yard touchdown. Beautiful. He's really a huge deep threat for this team. Was it a 70-yard touchdown? I don't know. He's got a long of 70. So it's either a 70-yard touchdown or a 14-yard touchdown. I'll do my quick math here. Either way, guy's a deep ball threat. Looks great out there. The problem is he's not going to get playing time over Mike Williams at this point, even though Mike Williams, monster disappointment on the week. 3 targets, caught 1 for 4 yards. I don't know why they didn't challenge more. I mean, I know they were up, but they were throwing the ball a good amount down the field and just didn't see Mike Williams getting targeted at all. Very, very disappointing, for people that picked up Mike Williams on the waiver wire and were hoping that he was going to become a thing here. And then, then you get that kind of a game. All right. Let's get into the night games. We had one great one and one, kind of boring one, but the Sunday night game was fantastic. Seattle Seahawks The undefeated at the time Seattle Seahawks traveled to Arizona to face their divisional rival Cardinals, the up-and-coming Cardinals. And Arizona took care of them. In OT, the late improbable comeback, and then also the win in OT. Russ threw 3 interceptions. Very, very uncharacteristic. 37-34 Seattle. Some bad news in this game, though, but on the whole, you kind of got what you needed here. So let's look at the Seahawks first. They were on the road. Russ had another big game. 388 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, there were 3 interceptions, but there were also 84 yards on the ground. So the fact of the matter is, those ground yards more than covered the points lost by those interceptions. And then he still had an almost 400-yard game with 3 touchdowns through the air, making Russell Wilson the number 5-ish quarterback on the week. Very, very nice. Chris Carson, not very nice. One of the 2 running back injuries here. Fortunately for him, his was the less serious of the 2. He looks like 5 carries, 34 yards, and then only had 1 reception for 7 yards before he got knocked out. We're not sure what's going to happen with Chris Carson. I'm expecting at least 1 week, if not 2. At least 1 week, though. I don't think he's going to play next week. We haven't really heard much, but we'll see. Either way, we're going to be talking about Carlos Hyde in just a few minutes here. Carlos Hyde ran the ball 15 times after Carson left, 68 yards and a touchdown. Also had 4 targets. Now, he caught 3 balls for 8 yards. Not great efficiency, obviously. Not really his, I'm not going to say not his forte. Once upon a time, he was a good pass catcher, but he's not considered to be a great pass catcher by any means. That being said, I think it will be him, not Travis Homer, if Carson misses time. So, he's going to be the guy to grab. It's not going to be DJ Dallas either. I mean, it could be, but it's going to be Hyde. They're embroiled in a divisional battle in the toughest division in the game, right? The toughest division in football is the NFC West. And you got to have all your weapons out there. So they're not going to mess around. I think you want the veteran Carlos Hyde out there. Let's see, were there any big games for wide receivers in this game? Oh, yeah. Tyler Lockett went absolutely freaking nuclear. We talked about it. 20 targets, 15 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. What are you going to say? If you're going to prioritize DK Metcalf, this is what's going to happen with the Seattle team. This is why they're so good. This is why Russ is so good. Boom. Tyler Lockett, you go back. You can pull up the tape from preseason. I've got Lockett as a top 10 PPR wide receiver. And this performance alone might kind of lock him in there. So we might have to see. Now, unfortunately, because he hogged everything, there wasn't a lot else to go around. No other touchdowns, not that many other yards. So, let's see, DK Metcalf, the biggest disappointment of the day for fantasy. 5 targets, 2 receptions, 23 yards, and 1 highlight reel for the ages, touchdown save. Playing defense, playing offense, but, interception. You saw the run back, runs Buda Baker down. I've seen it every which way. Every kind of cool graphic, fun meme you can have. Holy shit, man. But, I heard a theory that, he went so hard, so far out, so hard for that, and ran 100 yards at full 105, 10%. That he was kind of gassed maybe a little bit for the rest of the game. I don't think that's the case. I think it was just a Lockett day. David Moore, 3 for 3 for 54 yards. And then some tight ends got in the mix here. We had Will Dissly. Caught 2 of 4 passes for 38 yards. Greg Olsen, 2 of 3 passes for 18 yards. If Dissly's going to be involved, then Greg Olsen can't be played, and neither can Dissly. It has to be one or the other, or neither. That's all you can do. All right, let's go to Arizona. Huge win. 5-2 Arizona. Now 5-2. Monstrous victory for them. Another huge game for Kyler Murray. 360 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns and a pick, and another 67 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He is fulfilling the prophecy of Kyler Murray. So you're getting everything you want that you need out of Kyler Murray. You're loving it. Kenyon Drake down for at least a short while. X-rays were negative, but waiting for the MRI. I'm expecting at least 2 to 3 weeks to have a bye, I think, this upcoming week. So we'll see what happens. But he ran the ball 14 times for 34 yards and still looked pretty bad before he got knocked out, unfortunately. One catch for 7 yards. So, Chase Edmonds, however, 5 carries, 58 yards, 11.6 yards a clip. I know it's only 5 carries. And then catches all 7 of his targets for 87 yards. I'll say it every week. I don't care. I don't know why they don't give Kenyon Drake the opportunities that they give Chase Edmonds when he's in the game. End of story. Watch the tape. Watch every fucking game. As soon as Chase Edmonds comes in, he gets all these beautiful like design dump offs and plays to the outside. None of this shit that Kenyon Drake gets when he's in there. So I don't care. Bunch of horse shit. Unfortunately for Kenyon Drake, he's going to be out for a little while. And people that picked him, late in the first or anywhere in the second, you're not happy. And that's a lot of people that were in the first and second round. You can go through all of them, right? McCaffrey, Barkley, We're gonna do a little of that tomorrow. But as of now, I mean, you're not happy with any of this shit unless you had Chase Edmonds as his insurance policy, and then you're gonna be, living fat for the next few weeks. On the outside, again, it was DeAndre Hopkins, another 10 catches, 103 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. Continues to be the beast, of this offense. I mean, it's every week with this guy. Larry Fitzgerald, hey, 8 targets, caught them all for 62 yards. Really hard to play him at this point, but just love to see him have a really nice game at this point in his career. Big stuff. I think he moved into number 2, the second place on the all-time receptions, I believe. So, congrats, Larry. And then Christian Kirk, hey, I said go ahead and get him in your lineup at this point. 8 targets, caught 5 of them for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's getting high-value targets. He's making big plays happen. He's going to have some bad weeks. It's definitely going to happen. But let's look at the matchups going forward with Christian Kirk and definitely think about playing him. And then, there's a Dan Arnold sighting. First time you heard a little bit of a little buzz about him in the preseason. 3 targets, caught 2 of them for 57 yards. Dude's big. He's like 6'6". He's not a huge tight end for bulk. So, he's more of a receiving tight end. And, it's something to keep an eye on. I'm not even putting him on my radar right now. It's just he's on my radar's radar. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that makes sense, but that's fine. You know what I'm saying. All right, last game here before we get into our waiver wire picks. We're going to talk about Monday night's game, last game. Chicago Bears travel to LA, take on the Rams, and get beaten pretty handily here, 24-10. Never really in the game, couldn't get anything going. Their only touchdown was in the fourth quarter when they were down, by 3 scores. So, Nick Foles, man, that's a pretty bad game for Nick Foles. I mean, you go down here, and he barely outscored Chad Henne, who had that rushing touchdown for Kansas City. He was only playing for not even a quarter, I don't think. So that's pretty brutal, Nick Foles. Under 10 points, no bueno, man. Let's look at the stats here. Let's go behind the curtain. 261 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. No touchdowns, man. You got to get the ball in the end zone. I know Jalen Ramsey, it's a pretty good, secondary for LA, but teams have been scoring on them, some, and you did not at all. So, pretty brutal. How'd they score? Who did get a touchdown? Oh, it was a defensive touchdown. I see. Was that Robert Woods' fumble? Yeah. So Woods fumbled and Eddie Jackson scored. The offense never freaking scored. David Montgomery, bad again. 14 carries, 48 yards. Not even 3.5 yards a carry, but he did add another 5 receptions for 21 yards. So hey, those 7 points, what helped you out, right? Almost 13 points. Let's see what that actually came out to. Where are you actually? He was still a running back 2. He's running back 21. You expect him to be a mid-tier, running back 2, and that's basically what he was. So that's ugly, though. It was definitely a quarterback receiver week, though. And then on the outside here, target leader, rookie, Darnell Mooney. They love this kid. And Foles missed him badly on a wide open, kind of stop and go against Jalen Ramsey, where Ramsey bit like a big mouth motherfucking bass. Bit on that shit, and Mooney just took off, and Foles threw like 5 yards ahead of him. I mean, wide open. This kid's fast. He was gone. But we'll keep an eye out for Mooney. But as long as the quarterback play is bad, it's not going to be that tempting. Allen Robinson, he only had 4 targets, caught them all for 70 yards. 11 points. Didn't kill you. Definitely disappointed you though. What are you going to do? Nobody else. Let's see Jimmy Graham. 6 targets for Jimmy Graham, caught 5 balls, 31 yards. Continues to be used. They just weren't in scoring position at all in this game. And then the rookie tight end caught both of his passes. Cole Kmet caught both of his passes for 45 yards. those things happen throughout the course of a game. It's still the Jimmy Graham show in Chicago. All right. Let's go here to LA. Jared Goff, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not altogether a bad game. Didn't have to do that much. They were ahead all game. Didn't look great. I don't want to say that. Definitely didn't look great by any means. But he was okay. But in these matchups, at home, maybe you want to see him put up a little bit more. But they're 5-2. They're 3-0 at home. Goff will be on the cusp of streamability in most weeks. Darrell Henderson, 15 carries, 64 yards. You're pretty happy with the workload. Didn't get in the end zone, so it didn't help you out that much. But he only had 2 targets, caught them both for 13 yards. So altogether, a disappointing game for Darrell Henderson, especially when you consider that Malcolm Brown had not only 10 carries, 57 yards, but also got the rushing touchdown. And who's going to play Malcolm Brown right now? Probably nobody, unless you're desperate. And then some weeks he hooks you up like this week. Some weeks he doesn't. That was still 11.7 points. Didn't have any targets. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about this running attack? I told you I don't want to play anybody. I guess it's gonna be what's his nuts Henderson, if anybody, but not looking forward to doing that. All right, let's go to the receivers here real quick, and then we'll knock out our waiver wire guys. Your main 2 guys were not the leaders here. It was Josh Reynolds day for whatever reason. 8 targets, caught 4 of them for 52 yards and a touchdown. Didn't leave that much meat on the bones for our guys here. Cooper Kupp caught all 6 of his targets for only 43 yards. And then Robert Woods, who caught 3 of his 5 targets for 22 yards, looked early like he might be getting involved. And then he just disappeared. And that happens a lot with Woods. Like he's there in the first quarter, and you never look at him again. I really don't understand. But Woods and Kupp are sliding consistently down to back end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3, plays. That's just the truth, man. All right, let's go to the tight ends here. Tyler Higbee was out. So Johnny, you mutt. 3 targets, caught 3 of them for 47 yards. Gerald Everett had 5 targets, caught 4 of them for 28 yards, but he did have that little touchdown there. So, again, with the tight ends, it's hard to know who to play on any given week. If they're both healthy, you probably got to go a different direction. All right, so let us talk about some of these waiver wire pickups here. Week 8 coming up. We had some injuries. You might be losing Chris Carson for a couple weeks. We don't know what to do in San Francisco. Devontae Freeman also might be gone here for a week or 2. We don't know, right? So we're going to break this down. We're going to give you our top 5 waiver wire pickups, both for the immediate future. So if you need wins this week, week 8, week 9, these guys might be for you worth a waiver wire pickup priority. If you're not desperate for a pickup spot, but you're looking for depth for rest of season, we're going to give you top 5 rest of season waiver wire pickup guys that maybe you don't have to put in as top priority because other people do need a win right now, or you can choose to do that if you want to. So let's talk about our plays. All right, for this upcoming week here. Who is going to be on a bye? I don't even know who's on a bye next week. All right, so Arizona, Washington, Jacksonville, Houston, all these guys are on a bye. So in Arizona, that means you can't play Chase Edmonds even if you have him. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk. In Washington, you can't play Antonio Gibson or Terry McLaurin, right? Jacksonville, you can't play James Robinson or anybody else, DJ Chark or Keelan Cole, even if you wanted to. In Houston, Deshaun Watson is out. David Johnson is out. Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, all those guys. Man, a lot of people are going to be out and missing this week. So let's hit this waiver wire up pretty quick, and then we'll let you all jump out of here. All right, so we're going to start with number 5. My number 5 waiver wire pickup for the week is Richard Rodgers, tight end, Philadelphia. Now, I know on all those teams I just mentioned, you're not really missing a tight end. So you're saying to yourself, like, what am I, the Logan Thomas owner? I need a tight end? No. What I'm saying is Richard Rodgers could be a 15 or 20 point tight end this week. I said it last week. We know they love to wear out the tight ends, right? When it's Ertz, Goddard, whoever it is, combination, they get buku targets on a weekly basis. We saw Richard Rodgers getting targets last week in his first game as a starter, right? Deshaun Jackson is back out again. We know Ertz and Goddard are still out. Alshon Jeffrey, we don't know if he's back yet. So it's still Travis Fulgham, it's Greg Ward, it's probably Jalen Reagor, and it's Richard Rodgers, right? So Philly plays prime time at home against the Dallas Cowboys. You know, all they do is give up points. Logan Thomas scored last week. Everyone scores the week before that. You know, listen, if you're struggling at tight end, if you're playing people like Tyler Higbee, you know what I mean, or you lost Austin Hooper, or, you know, there's so many guys that you could play that I think Richard Rodgers would be better than. So I'm going to call it right now, top 6 tight end for Richard Rodgers this week. Week 8, top 6. So I think that's worth picking up. And you don't have to pay a lot for him. You probably don't need to pick him up on the waiver wire. Maybe not. But if you don't have other needs, and that's somewhere where maybe you can add some points, you might want to think about it. All right? So top 6. Remember that. All right. Let's talk about number 4 here. Rashard Higgins. He's the only one that's going to be on both of these lists today. Rashard Higgins is going to take over, theoretically, for Odell Beckham Jr. in that spot. 6 catches for $110, I think, after Beckham left. Was on the field for every single Baker Mayfield drop back and pass of the game. Was on the field for every single one of them. So, you know, we'll see what happens with the the narrative of, hey, will Baker be a little bit better with OBJ off the field now that they, maybe have a little more freedom? I don't know. All I know is he looked really good last week. I think he's going to be a plug and play this week if you need someone in that flex, if you'd rather play a wide receiver than playing, a really shaky running back. Then I think Higgins can absolutely be that guy. He can definitely be a wide receiver 3. Lots of wide receivers were out this week. Lots of them, right? Remember, so what was it? Hopkins, Kirk, McLaurin, Shark, Cole, Cooks, Fuller. I mean, somewhere between 5 and 8, usable, startable wide receivers are out this week. And then we don't even talk about injuries and guys that are underperforming. So, Rashard Higgins, number 4. Number 3 will be Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman of the New York Giants, Devontae Freeman, very possibly out. I don't know what's going to happen with Devontae Freeman here. What are they saying? Questionable return with an ankle injury. I don't think they would play it safe. They're not, in contention here by any means. There's no reason for them to really push it with any of their players. Now, they are playing Monday night at home against the Buccaneers. Awful, awful matchup, I know. But it's just, sometimes that happens, right? I mean, you get these bad matchups, but there's really no other options. And volume is key, and it works. So, he would be my number 3 wide receiver or waiver wire pickup. If I needed points, I needed something to go on this week, I have him at number 3. Now, the next 2 are also running backs. So, number 2, JaMycal Hasty, San Francisco. We talked about it a little bit just a few minutes ago. He looked fantastic when he carried the ball. You know what I mean? He really did. He looked great. When are they playing? Why can't I find him? Why can't I find them? They're not on a bye. There they are. All right, so they're playing at Seattle. Seattle, good defense, not great. They'll give up some points to the running back, and the fact is, we know, San Francisco with their scheme, they are going to score some points from the running back position. The last couple of weeks we thought it might be McKinnon. Now that Mostert is out, McKinnon hasn't gotten almost any work on the ground. He's gotten some work through the air, but they just don't seem to want to make him the guy on the ground. Tevin Coleman, as far as I know, will not be back for this week, and I'm not expecting that he's back for this week, so I think you get at least one good week, at least one out of JaMycal Hasty. Maybe you get 2. I don't really think you get more than that, so you got to understand that, but hey, if you need a 1 to 2 week play, if you're desperate, you need a running back play this week, I think JaMycal Hasty can be it. And number 1 is Carlos Hyde. I am expecting Chris Carson to miss at least 1 week, if not 2. And because of that, I think Carlos Hyde is going to be a good play in that same game. In a tough matchup at home against San Fran. Both, these matchups against each other can be tough. I understand that. But there's not that much out there. There's just not that much out there between, committees, injuries, and bye weeks. Running backs are a fucking priority right now, and Carlos Hyde should be your number 1. For those that need wins right now, get yourself some Carlos Hyde. I know it hurts. All right, now let's quickly talk about my top 5 waiver wire pickups for the rest of the season. Okay? Number 5 is going to be Damian Harris from New England. New England running back. He's looked pretty good when he gets the ball. Their offense looks atrocious though, and that's kind of the problem. But I think they might try to return to a bit more traditional style offense. Get the ball, running the ball a little bit more with the running back. Maybe some bootlegs for Cam and some play action, but they're gonna be running the ball a little bit more, in my opinion. And Harris has looked pretty good doing it. I think they want him to be the back. Hopefully, he can get some passing down work as well. But I like his prospects to be a 15 carry a game type of guy, possibly for the rest of the season. And there's basically none of those guys out there, right? Well, there is one more. I just want to give an honorable mention to Tevin Coleman here before we move on. Tevin Coleman was possibly going to make this list, but I really don't know if he's going to be back in the next couple of weeks. So, and he was just so bad, when he did have the ball last year. So we're going to skip him. All right, number four on both lists, Rashard Higgins. You just heard all the reasons. OBJ's out for the year. This is not a 1 or 2 week thing, and I don't see somebody else coming in and taking over the number 2 spot here. So Rashard Higgins, number 4. Number 3, Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco 49ers wide receiver. As I mentioned, Deebo Samuel is going to be out again for an indefinite amount of time with a hamstring injury, at least 2 or 3 weeks. But the problem is, Ayuk looks great when he's on the field also. So whether or not Deebo comes back in 2 or 3 weeks, I still think Brandon Ayuk will have value for the rest of the season. And I think for the next 2 or 3 weeks, he will be viewed as a high-end wide receiver 3 with absolute high-end wide receiver 2, if not low-end wide receiver 1 upside. So Brandon Ayuk, number 3. Number 2, Sterling Shepard, wide receiver, New York Giants. We saw, he came back. He's been out for a number of weeks, and Darius Slayton had been number 1 that whole time. And then Sterling Shepard gets back in the game. Boom, he takes over. He's number 1. I think that'll continue to be the case. There might be some Slayton games for sure, but I do think that Sterling Shepard's going to be that 7-8 target a game kind of guy for Daniel Jones going forward. And he's a good pickup, someone to keep on your bench, plug and play every week if you need him. Boom, boom. And number 1, LaMichael P. Ryan. I've been talking about him for a couple weeks now. So listen, LaMichael P. Ryan, New York Jets running back. I know everything about that sentence makes you want to fucking puke, right? New York Jets running back. And the team is so bad right now. They're 0-7. The offense can't move the ball. They can't do shit. I get it. But at the end of the day, they got to play 60 minutes of football. Someone's got to touch the ball. We saw Gore and P. Ryan split carries this last week. I think P. Ryan actually was higher in snap count. And I expect that to only increase going forward. Again, I've been saying it all along. Why not? Why not see what you got? Frank Gore is not the future. So why not see what you got with LaMichael P. Ryan. I keep doing that. LaMichael P. Ryan, and see what he can do for you. It's worth it. There's no reason not to. He scored 14.5 points last week. He got into the end zone here. Let's see where he actually wound up here for running backs. Running back 18. Listen. If you're going to tell me right now, you can give me a weekly running back 2, and I can get him on the waiver wire, and you don't do that, you're fucking stupid, right? With how the running backs are going right now. So make room, drop one of these 3 wide receivers you have on your bench that are all projected to score 12 points every week, because there's another 5 of those guys on the waiver wire. End of story. Go ahead, get LaMichael P. Ryan, make it happen. So that's it. Those are our top 10 waiver wire pickups for the week. 5 for the immediate future, 5 for the rest of the season. Help you out a little bit there, all right? Get your waiver wire claims in this week. Don't snooze. Don't lose out. We are in crunch time, man. Listen, if you are 1-6, you might be out of it. But if you're 2-5, you are not out of it. 13-game season. 7-6 can make the playoffs, man. Every year, 7-6 can make the playoffs. So you're still in it, baby. Just keep making those moves. Stick with it. Stick with the process. At the very least, cockblock somebody else out of the playoffs, right? Kick their ass in the last week. Make them lose out. It's all about bragging rights, man. Got to do what you got to do. So, listen. That's going to do it for us today on a lovely Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow for Hump Day. We're going to talk about the top 2 rounds, ADP, top 24 picks, and how that's worked out for you so far through halfway of the fantasy football season. All right, y'all, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the World Series tonight. We'll see if the Dodgers can take it home or if the Rays can force a Game 7. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. See you.